Marc Márquez's seventh MotoGP world title in 2025 will go down as one of the most breathtaking comebacks any sport has ever produced. Yet, in the middle of the celebrations, champagne still dripping from the visor, one quiet sentence slipped out, delivered with that familiar half-smile, calm, measured, almost matter-of-fact. Eventually, the dip will come. 8 words, no drama, no theatrics, and still they landed like a winter wind blowing straight through the paddock. Because when the most successful rider of the modern era tells you he can already hear time knocking, everyone listens. To understand why those words carry so much weight, you have to go back to the moment everything truly changed, the day Marc Márquez closed the door on Honda for good. For 12 seasons, Honda's entire MotoGP universe had revolved around one man. Every new carbon swing arm, every seamless gearbox evolution, every last millimeter aerodynamic flick was conceived, developed, and signed off on Marc's bike first. Satellite riders waited weeks, sometimes months, for the same parts. Lucio Cecchinello, who has seen the inner workings of HRC closer than most, later laid it bare. When a box arrived from Japan, it didn't go to the technical director, it went straight to Marc's side of the garage. Only when he said yes did the rest of us get a look in. Then, in October 2023, Marquez announced he was leaving. Overnight, Honda's whole development pyramid collapsed and had to be rebuilt from the ground up. From 2024 onwards, new aero, new engines, new chassis ideas were finally shared equally across all 4 bikes. A fairer system, yes. A faster one? Not even close. Without its North Star, Honda looked more lost than ever. Luca Marini, who carried the thankless task of replacing him, said it without bitterness. The decline didn't begin when Marc left. It began the moment he could no longer mask the problem single-handedly. Inside the garage, the farewell was heavy with emotion. Alberto Puig, the team manager who had stood by Marc through every surgery, every comeback, every dark day of double vision, still calls 2020 to 2023 a nightmare none of us want to relive. Seeing your star rider wince in pain every time he pulled on a leather suit, watching him try to race with an arm that simply wouldn't heal, it scarred everyone. When the split finally came, Puig insists there was no anger, only sadness and respect. Marc needed a motorcycle that could fight for victories again. Honda, at that moment, simply didn't have one to give him, so he rolled the dice like only he can. 1 year on the customer Gresini Ducati in 2024 to prove he still belonged at the front. Then the call-up to the factory Lenovo team in 2025. What unfolded across those 20 Grand Prix and 19 sprints was nothing less than a resurrection. 11 Grand Prix wins, 14 sprint victories, 7 consecutive maximum score weekends, 37 points every single time he crossed the line first on Saturday and Sunday. A 7th Premier Class crown sealed with a consistency so brutal it almost felt personal. This wasn't the wild edge-of-control Marquez of 2013 to 2019. This was something colder, more complete. A rider who had stared into the abyss of forced retirement and come back with a deeper understanding of every racing truth. Neil Hodgen tells a story that sums it up perfectly. Back in the 125 days, he watched a scrawny teenager and thought, nice kid, but nothing special. Then Marquez won his first race, sliding the bike like it was on rails, and Hodgen realized he was already hooked. In 2025, that addiction came roaring back. Hodgen points to Assen as the weekend that defined everything. 2 monstrous high-siders in practice, Marquez limping visibly, qualifying outside the top 10, no outright single-lap pace, and still, by sheer force of will, he carved his way to the front and then defended like a man possessed. 2 wins, 37 points, championship lead extended. Hodgen's verdict was simple: impossible. Only Marquez does impossible. Inside the Ducati garage, another transformation was quietly taking place. Marquez didn't just arrive and ride the fastest bike on the grid, he started molding the entire environment to his needs. He told crew chief Marco Rigomoto, no media interviews on race mornings, total silence, absolute focus. A few rounds later, Pecco quietly asked his own crew to follow the same rule. Test rider Lekeli Pirro watched all of it and saw ghosts of the past. He said, "Marc reminds me of one rider only, Casey. Throw him any problem, any balance issue, any track condition, and he finds the limit in 2 laps." Through every triumph, one name kept coming up in Marquez's interviews, Gigi Dall'Igna. He once sat in his office after a terrible test and admitted, "Right now, I suck." Gigi looked him in the eye and replied, "You never suck. You can do better or you can do worse, but you never suck."
Marquez says those 10 words carried him through the entire season. Even Pecco, the teammate he demolished in the standings, was treated with a respect that surprised many. Marquez repeated again and again that Ducati needs Bagnaia at his very best, because only real internal pressure forces a factory to keep evolving. Rivalry for Marc isn't poison, it's oxygen. Then, in the warm afterglow of the title, at relaxed Estrella Galicia event surrounded by home fans, he dropped the warning nobody expected. He's not thinking about Valentino's 9 titles, he said. Too far away. More importantly, eventually the dip will come. The new generation will keep pushing harder every year. And then, almost casually, "I will only continue racing as long as I believe I can still win. The day I don't feel that, I'll stop." From the man who had just delivered one of the most dominant seasons in history, it felt less like humility and more like a man who has already made peace with the end, whenever it arrives. That one comment reframed everything. Liberty Media, the new owners riding into 2026 with dreams of a Formula One-style global explosion, want drama, unpredictability, new markets, new faces. When Marquez was fit in 2025, Ducati was untouchable. When he missed the final rounds injured, the championship suddenly exploded. 6 winners in 7 races, Aprilia closing in, surprise names on the top step, the kind of chaos that sells tickets and streaming subscriptions. Whispers in the paddock say Liberty's perfect scenario might quietly involve Marquez retiring in the next 3 to 4 seasons, not because they don't adore him, but because the sport desperately needs air to breathe. Livio Suppo, the man who brought Marquez to Honda all those years ago, just smiles when he hears it. Someone faster than Marc? That day is a long, long way off. Meanwhile, the most cinematic subplot of all refuses to fade. Ducati wants to keep him beyond 2026, but negotiations are slow. Marc knows his worth and isn't afraid to ask for it. Across the pit lane, Honda has finally found stability. The equal development model is bearing fruit. Engineers in Japan speak with new confidence. Carlo Pernigatti, one of the architects of HRC's revival, let slip in private conversations that they would move mountains and budgets the size of small nations to bring Marquez home. Money has never been Marc's motivation. Only one currency has ever mattered: a motorcycle fast enough to fight for championships. If Honda reaches that point just as Marc begins writing the final chapters of his career, a reunion that once seemed pure fantasy suddenly sits on the table, real and possible and headline-ready. From the broken arm in Jerez 2020 to the Champions Rostrum in 2025, what Marc Márquez has achieved is almost beyond comprehension. 4 operations, double vision, a factory that forgot how to function without him. And still he returned, rewired his riding style, mastered a completely alien motorcycle, and dominated with a clarity and maturity that feels like the final, most refined version of the phenomenon we first met back in 2013. So when he warns that the dip will come, understand what you're really hearing. It isn't doubt, it isn't fear, it is the voice of a man who has already beaten every odd the sport could throw at him, who knows exactly how precious and how fragile invincibility really is. He hears the clock. He's not running from it. He's simply preparing for the day it finally catches up to him. Until then, MotoGP remains his battlefield, and nobody, nowhere, has proven they can take it from him. Not yet. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and once you're done, click on the video on your screen right now.